This meeting will come to order. I'd like to welcome you to our inaugural Sherwood School Board meeting for the 2023 rough start school year. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now I'd like to welcome Ms. Andrigg to the podium to administer our annual oath of office.
Thank you. Board members, please rise. And you'll repeat after me. I state your name.
Jeff Lee,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
to support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Oregon,
the Constitution of the State of Oregon,
and the laws thereof,
and the laws thereof,
and the policies of the Sherwood School District.
and the policies of the Sherwood School District.
I will faithfully and impartially
I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of the office of school board member
discharge the duties of the office of the school board member
according to the best of my ability
according to the best of my ability
during the term for which I have been elected.
during the term for which I've been elected.
Okay, thank you. Congratulations.
All right. I'd like to welcome Dr. Jeremy Lyon, as well as our newest director, Jeff Lee. We spent a few hours this afternoon doing some more training with Vince Adams from OSBA, which was a great opportunity for us to get to know each other a little bit more. Those of us sitting up here know each other, but a nice opportunity to invite Jeff to join us, and of course, Dr. Lyon. At this time, we will move forward electing a new board chair.
I would like to move that Abby Hawkins serve as our 2022-2023 school board chair.
I'll second.
I was going to ask if there were any other nominations, but all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? I'm not mic'd. We'll follow that up with a nomination for vice chair. Are there any nominations for vice chair?
Madam Chair, I move to nominate Krista Thorne for vice chair.
I will second.
Perfect. Are there any other nominations? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Sure. Opposed? Aye. You're not opposed. We will now move on to our next item on the agenda, which is the consent agenda. Just to clarify, the items on the consent agenda are those which are routine in nature and don't require further explanation or discussion. All members of the board have been provided the information contained here in advance and have had the time to review it prior to today's meeting. Do I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, I move that we adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion needed? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Moving right along, we'll now take a moment for reports. Dr. Lyon, would you like to lead us off?
Yes, thank you, Chair Hawkins. It's a real pleasure to be here, and kind of unusual to see all these empty chairs. And I did want to say this is not the norm. Pretty much our entire executive team is either out for health reasons, out at training, or on vacation, a much needed vacation. So we do really have a skeleton crew here this evening, which is okay for July. That's, it's okay. In my first 3 weeks with the district, it's been just a tremendous start. I have been able to meet with the most of the city leaders, city manager, mayor, police chief, and there's a real Bruce Coleman, economic development director. There is a very strong desire to have the school district and the city rekindle all the good partnerships that have existed over time and opportunities for more. And that will certainly be something that will be a effort of this year, is to really bring to life some of those partnership opportunities that the leaders have expressed to me that are good for our community, good for our children, and frankly, what citizens of a community should expect regarding a school district and a municipality, that high level of coordination and cooperation. We have an exceedingly brief agenda this evening. One item was removed because the chief presenter on the integrated guidance is out ill. So we determined that he can make that presentation next month with nothing at stake. And then the other item that we came to the conclusion that we wanted to remove was what was to be tonight, a second reading and possibly an adoption of the K-5 social science curriculum. We've taken that off of tonight's agenda. And I want to read a little backstory as to why we arrived at that decision and what brought us to that conclusion. So I want to read it so I get it right. At last month's board meeting, you were presented with a first reading of the kinder through fifth grade social science curriculum adoption, with a recommendation by staff that included asking for approval of the curriculum at tonight's meeting. Since that meeting, I have had a number of concerns raised regarding the adoption, and after consulting with the teaching and learning team, we have removed it as an action item for tonight's meeting. There are concerns about the resources within the curriculum and about the adoption process itself. And that's something we talked about earlier today with the OSBA trainer regarding revisiting some of the lengthy processes that we use that need to involve more board communication and involvement at the earlier stages. And we'll talk about that more later. I want to be clear, board members clarified that none of their questioning was about the efforts of the teaching and learning team and their work to bring forth a curriculum recommendation, one that is both required by the Department of Education and one that also we are very much out of compliance currently regarding the timeline for K-5 social science adoption. There is an urgency to this. Board members, your concerns, if I've captured them correctly, center around having adequate time to review the resources that go along with the adoption. Thus, I recommend we create a process for teaching and learning staff leaders to meet with 2 board representatives selected by the board to review the resources of the curriculum and identify specific resources that are objectionable and could be removed from use without compromising the instructional standards that we are required to teach. And the good news here is that most curriculum adoptions, and especially at the elementary level, in every area of study, include more resources than a teacher could possibly use during their allocated instructional time with students. So for instance, I was a biology teacher. The curriculums that we adopted, there was no way I was going to use all of those resources that were offered. In fact, given the constraints of time, I was lucky if I used 40%. So we have that flexibility anyway. And this abundance of resources, this is by design, as it gives school districts the opportunity to tailor the resources they will use in their classrooms. So we can use this to our advantage. We have the opportunity to have the board representatives work with our staff on this process with the goal being to bring the adoption forward in either August, which might be hard to arrive at, or September as an action item for approval with specific resources identified for use or non-use in our elementary schools. And just overall process-wise, the intent of forming this group is not at this time to establish a new practice for future adoptions. Separately, we are going to create a communications plan for future adoptions that provide regular and ongoing updates to the board regarding the specific stage we are in at each step of the adoption process. The board has made it clear that they need to have a more robust communication plan for each curriculum adoption going forward, and we are working on that. Without going into too much specificity, also, there are compelling reasons for the board to approve the current curriculum adoption recommendation no later than September. We do not have many options, and if the board does not approve this adoption, we will go into the 2022-23 school year continuing to use an outdated curriculum and assuredly receiving more direct oversight by the Department of Education regarding a corrective action plan, something that is absolutely not in the best interest of this school district. So I ask for 2 board members to volunteer their work with staff in a process, one that will be fairly laborious, and we're going to work on that. It's a lot of resources that need to be reviewed in a very short amount of time, but we want to review those resources. We want to find the objectionable resources that can be discarded while complying with state standards, and finding that sweet spot that will work with our community and our teachers and our schools. And then I ask that those board members will report back to the board, and we will work collaboratively with teaching and learning to bring forth something that represents a compromise on one hand because of the urgency, but also has been done collaboratively and addresses the concerns and issues of the school board. So that's where we are on that. And the last thing I'll say on my superintendent's report, which is a little longer this time maybe than it needs to be, we had this leadership change, and I just really want to give a shout out to our staff, our executive team, our campus principals. They never missed a beat. Were not, twiddling their fingers in the void between the time the previous superintendent was there and, learning my name. They've been hard at work all summer, and I'm really impressed with the administrative team that we have. I can't wait for the school year to start. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Director Lee, if you would like to share with us, this is your time.
Yes, I think overwhelmed is probably the best way to put this, is that, being put in and only a month has gone by, and it seems like we've done 3 or 4 months worth of work already. So I'm excited to be part of the board. I know I have a deep appreciation for the people who dedicate their lives to Sherwood, to our children in the Sherwood education and throughout the schools. And I am excited to be able to not only work with the board and the administration, but to support those who have the direct contact with our children, the teachers, and support their efforts, and I really, in many ways, become a cheerleader and advocate for them, and to I would say focus on the children and ensure that the children and their needs are best met academically and in other areas as well. And so I thank you for the opportunity. I would describe my role right now as a sponge. I will ask as many questions as I can, mostly to understand, but I'm looking forward to this next year.
Thank you, Director Nyangaro.
I didn't have much. I just wanted to welcome Director Lee and Dr. Lyon. I've had great conversations with the both of them, and I think the district is lucky to have him. And that's all I have.
Director Adamson. Vice Chair Thorne.
I don't have much either, other than to say that it's now we're into a new school year. It's like it just ended. But I'm really excited for the upcoming year. It just feels, as we move on from the thou that should not be mentioned, starts with a C, and into a more productive and positive environment. I'm just excited to see that. I'm excited to see the kids returning back to school in the fall with the enthusiasm and the excitement of the changes and the positivity. I'm really looking forward to a year, I hope and I pray, of a much more positive collaboration from the community, a community that's united, a community that has the focus of just being a great community and knowing that we all might not agree on stuff, but that we're all here and that what matters the most is the kids and supporting that. And we have had some changes. So I of course also want to welcome Dr. Lyon and I want to welcome Director Lee. And yeah, I just look forward to a great year. So that's it.
Thank you for sharing. I myself am pretending that we're not in the start of a new school year yet, even though this was our first meeting for this school year. I'm going to pretend it's still summer and enjoy all the summer things. I've loved seeing all the kids running around town and just, dodging crosswalks. And it was so fun to see everybody out at the Robin Hood Festival and all the baseball games. And so I'm going to live in that reality for another couple of weeks and just really soak it in. But I am also excited and reinvigorated to start the school year. And I do think it will be a fresh year for our community. And I hope that we find a way to bring things back together because that is how we are our best, for sure. We will move along now to our public comment section of the night. We only have one public comment this evening, and he is here in person with us. So Jeff Roberts, if you would like to take the podium, you have 3 minutes. Thanks for coming.
Who do I give documents to? Thank you, Jeff Roberts, 15373 Southwest Sherwood Boulevard. And appreciate the comments by Dr. Lyon about addressing curriculum. This is, I think, my 4th or my 5th time here. And as you can see, I'm committed to this. There's a lot of people in the community committed to a curriculum that is positive, and we need you, our elected officials, to be on the board of what's decided in the curriculum and gets out in front of it. So we don't have things like my 8-year-old daughter being discriminated against for being a heterosexual in 3rd grade. That's disturbing. And it bothers me when we don't have school board representing us with the teachers, and some teachers positive, negative. And as I've said from the beginning, we want to, as a community, embrace, promote, and exemplify the best things of our curriculum. And that's what makes Sherwood so awesome. That's why people move here and fight for it. The other thing I wanted to bring up was the board policy. It was awesome to hear you guys take the oath again and uphold the policy, this policy that I just handed out. I read parts of it last time. But there's a thing I put in brackets on some of it. The development of an ability to meet issues without prejudice and to think and to withhold judgments while facts are being collected, assembled, weighed, and relationships seen before drawing inferences or conclusions is among the most valuable outcomes of a free educational system. I would say of an enlightened mind. And that's what we're all trying to do. Emotional criticism and the promotion of a cause within the classroom are inappropriate and unscholarly. I walked through the high school, I have a high schooler, and I cringed when I went by so many school classrooms that had very biased, very prejudiced, and in all sorts of different ways, which is, I do not welcome that at all. I want my kids to walk into a classroom where they have no idea. One of my best, I'm digressing, but high school, my best teacher I had high school at Tigard, very, very different than my beliefs. Nobody knew exactly. He was wonderful. And to draw us out, he would kind of take the extreme and some comments, he'd take the other side and some comments, and we'd have the most wonderful, lively debates and understanding. I love that man. He wrote my recommendation to college, and it was, you didn't know, and it wasn't on the boards. And so you didn't know, you didn't feel like if you wrote a paper a certain way, gosh, I'm sticking my neck out here. It was, go to the source, gather the truth, figure this out. Let's have a discussion, and let's get you learn how to learn. So please enforce that policy. Let's start the new year right. Thank you for all you're doing. We're here for you. We support you. We want to, the community wants to help.
Thank you.
So please call on us.
All right, that concludes our very short public comment section for this evening. Now I'd like to invite Dr. Lyon. Would you like to take the podium,
If I could,
or would you like to do it from there?
I'll do it from here.
All right, for the second read of the Drug and Alcohol Prevention Plan.
Okay, so this is something that I adopted from one of our executive team members who is not here this evening, but we need to get this adopted. So very, very graciously, we have our mental health coordinator, Mary Massey, here to answer any questions that far exceed my knowledge and capacity to answer. If you have questions regarding the recommendation to, as a second read of this drug and alcohol prevention plan, to adopt it this evening. There is a consensus reached by all that the YSAT piece of this plan doesn't really belong in the plan and needs to be out of the plan and reviewed this coming year. And really a lot of that, I think, apparently was already in the works, but there has been some discussion about that the plan is really something different than what the YSAT program is intended for. So there has been no objection by anyone within the school district to concur with that idea. Let's take YSAT out. Let's examine it this coming year, review and renew those relationships with the partners of the YSAT program, which I know very little about, to be honest with you. And so that's the recommendation, is to approve the alcohol prevention, drug and alcohol prevention plan on its second read with the removal of the YSAT program from the formal plan.
Do we have a motion to approve the Drug and Alcohol Prevention Plan with the removal of the YSAT portion?
Madam Chair, I move that we adopt the Drug and Alcohol Prevention Plan as presented at our last meeting with the removal of YSAT as a component of that plan.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Is there any discussion or debate to be had? Sorry, I wasn't mic'd. Is there any discussion or debate?
Yes. I want to thank Gary and team for working so hard on this. I do fully support the initiative to both educate our students about drugs, alcohol, and tobacco for the purpose of prevention. It is one of the most pressing issues that we're having to deal with these days, and I'm really thankful that we live in a district that is making this such a priority and is working so hard to do what they can. Dr. Lyon did a great piece of, or a great summary of the YSAT concern. I believe that the YSAT program has good intentions. I want to make that very clear. I just have been made aware of some experiences and concerns from both parents and professionals in the field. And additionally, the steering committee that was part of the curriculum for the drug and alcohol prevention program did have some recommendations regarding the YSAT as well. And I think it's important to listen to people that have had these experiences, professionals in the field, and the members of the steering committee, because that's the whole reason they're there. And so I do agree with that. I just wanted to, I agree with your motion, but I'd like to stipulate that the YSAT review is completed within the coming year, just to add to that piece to it.
So you'd like to amend the motion?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, you need to make a motion to amend.
Okay. So Chair Hawkins, I would like to make a motion to amend the previous motion that we approve the drug and alcohol prevention plan with the stipulation that a thorough review of the YSAT is completed within this coming year.
Madam Chair, I'd like to second that motion. We need to vote on that motion first, and then we'll vote on the motion as a whole.
All those in favor of amending the motion as it was just presented?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0, motion carries. Now we need to vote on the motion.
On the main motion, though, I'd like to make a comment under discussion if I may.
Please do.
Okay, so I am a big fan of taking a look at programs after they've been in place for a while and making sure that we can make improvements. And I think that's, as I understand it, the intention here with the YSAT program. I would like to say though that I am in support of the YSAT program and its goals and the focus on outcome of getting ahead of long-term use and abuse and trying to find a way to avoid a law enforcement response to student drug and alcohol abuse, treat it as the disease that it is, work with students to address those issues and avoid a law enforcement encounter that could limit options in the future. And so I really appreciate that there are so many leaders in Sherwood that have built this program over time with that intention. I want to make sure that the program is still functioning as it should. That doesn't mean it's always going to be comfortable and easy for everyone who's in it. But I appreciate that the intention is really to figure out how do we intervene, how do we provide support, and how do we avoid future options being limited because of, poor decision making in middle school and high school, because, there, but for the grace of God go a lot of us. So I think that the review is timely. I support it being within a year, but I do want to make sure that the focus on how do we adjust the program so that it works for where we are now, not an elimination of a program that's been pretty effective at avoiding a pretty draconian response to drug and alcohol issues.
So just to be clear, this isn't a motion to eliminate the program. It's just to review it, take a closer look at it.
Correct. So the motion on the table is to adopt the drug and alcohol prevention plan as it was stated in tonight's meeting, removing the YSAT piece from approval this evening, but also agreeing to review it within this next year. Is that clear for everybody? Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
No one's opposed. So the motion carries 5-0. All right. Well, thank you guys for attending our school board meeting tonight. It was very short and brief, but we appreciate your participation. We invite you to come back and join us. We will be back on August 24th. Is that correct? For our next meeting at 7 o'clock. Thank you guys. Meeting is adjourned.